Okay. Our next topic is VLAN. VLAN stands for
Virtual LAN.
virtual LAN. And in that virtual LAN, we configured so many VLANs in a switch. So in VLAN, we configured in a switches how many required, that many VLANs will configure it in a switch. If you have a multiple switch, like it's kind of your core device, and core switch is connected to again distribution and distribution to multiple access switches. These all are the access switches. You can assume like here we have a 10 access switches, and in this 10 access switches, each switch having the 50 VLANs, or these 10 switches having the 50 VLANs, and each switch having the for 10 VLANs or something. So these all are the switch and VLANs. So if you are configuring the VLANs in that switch, so likewise connectivity is there. It's an access layer, and it's a distribution, and it's a core. So now move to the access switches. In this access switches, each switch having the 10 VLANs. So, and that 10 VLANs having the access ports or access host. These all are the host. This many host we have multiple hosts, and each switch is considered as a one department, you can assume. So now we'll discuss here VTP. VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol. So VLAN having different modes. One is client and server and transparent. Okay. Now we'll discuss these things where we'll use. Before that, the requirement is here. So 50 VLANs, if you got a task, and in that 50 VLANs, you should have to assign some, like not assigning, you got a task like 50 VLANs you should have to create. So, and if we configured in each switch 10 VLANs means it's okay. We can easily configure it. Apart from that, if you got a 100 switches, that time 1000 VLANs you should have to create. Then it is difficult or easy. If you got 100 switches, that is a big kind of large kind of organization, and each switch you should have to configure 1000 VLANs. Each switch, no, this time each switch you should have to configure. It's kind of like big size of organization, and they are using like 24 ports of multiple switches, 24 ports, 24 ports, 24 ports, and we have to configure it. 1000 VLANs. So it's easy task or difficult? Tell me.
It's difficult.
If limited VLANs and limited switches, so easy to configure it. If multiple VLANs and multiple switches are there, so it is difficult to configure it, right? So we have a solution for that. That is VLAN. So once you configure the VLAN at server switch. So as I mentioned, we have a client server transparent. So you can assume like this is a server switch, and this server switch you created 1000 VLANs, and that's only one time you configured it, 1000 VLANs, whichever the requirement are there, 1000 or 100, how many requirement you configured it, those VLANs in this. So we have to transfer this VLAN to this this access switches. Now, how it will be possible? So I'll configure these all the switches, all the VLANs in this switch. Which switch? At code switch, I'll configure it. And those many VLANs, I'll transfer this many. How many VLANs I have created? Those many VLANs I should have to transfer to access switches. So that is make possibility with VTP. So we have a here client mode, server mode, and transparent mode. We have a different modes in client, server, and transparent. And if you are configuring, so once you are configuring the entire VLANs, okay, those many VLANs are transferring entire thing here. That is good only. If I don't want to assign the VLAN something 10 VLANs here. It's a because of it's kind of a different switch. So I no need, I don't want some VLANs. 1000 VLANs are there. That is fine because of access switches, access connected to the core and connected to the host. So host, they can communicate to inter VLAN, whatever we required, they can reach out to the network. That is fine. If this switch is available in VLAN 10 and this is switch is 20, VLAN 20, and this switch is 30. At these 10, 20, 30, I don't want in this. So, but it is, even though it is connected to this switch, so that is also a problem with us. So 20, 30, and 40, I don't want on this switch. Those VLANs I don't want. So that is also solution we have with the help of VTP. So now concern, you understand or not? What the concern for VTP?
No, Alim, I didn't get it.
Okay, fine. See, from scratch I'm explaining. VTP stands for VLAN Trunking Protocol, and its VTP is a basically Cisco proprietary, and this VTP work only Cisco devices. Okay, and all the devices whichever we are using these switches by default, that is in server mode actually. Okay, so up to here, this is server mode and it's a Cisco proprietary. Okay, now move to the our concern here. We have a access switches at branch side in LAN location. We have a access switches, 100 access switches we have, and in each switch my requirement is configured up to 100 VLANs only. Each switch I have to configure in each switch 100 VLAN. This many switches we have, and this many VLANs we have to configure. So I'll configure this many VLANs not in each switch. I'll configure those many VLANs at my core switch. So core will transfer this many VLANs to each switch. This switch for this switch, for this switch, for this switch, for this switch. The requirement of fulfill here. My requirement is to configure this many VLAN 10, VLAN 20, VLAN 30, VLAN 40, even though VLAN thousands also it is there. Up to 1005, this many VLANs we can propagate it. The VLAN information propagate to access switches or core switch distribution switches also. And those many VLANs are propagated to here. So I can utilize those many VLANs information, and where I'm creating those VLANs at my core level, core switches. It's a server switch actually. So once the server switch will be propagate the entire VLAN information to access switches. So in this access switches, where I want to utilize, I can give the port, I can utilize those VLANs. And in we have a one more mode, transparent mode. Transparent mode, it will be sent to others. It will be not syncing, not synchronize those VLANs. It will be not accept those VLAN. It will be not propagate those VLAN. So client only receive those VLAN who server sending, it will be received. But transparent mode, it will transfer that. It will be not deploy, not applying himself. So now move to this one theory. So VTP stands for VLAN trunking protocol, used to share VLAN configuration with multiple switches. So here it's a switch, and this switch is connected to one more switch and another switch and another switch. I'll create here VLAN 10, 20, and 30. If I create in this VLAN here, it will be transfer. It will be share that VLAN information to this switch also. That is what VTP. And it's a Cisco proprietary, and maintain a consistency VLAN database. It can be difficult in large switching environment. That is what if we have the 100 switches, access switches, and if each switch I should have to go and I should have to log in and I have to configure. It's if that is large large kind of environment, it is difficult to maintain. If it is difficult to configure it. So let's say we have a 10 switches and 50 VLANs. For example, the difficulty to configure it, and normally you would have to configure each switch separately and create those VLANs on each and every switch. So each and every switch, I am configuring 10, 20, 30 here. Instead of that, I'll create here one switch. I'll transfer those VLANs to others. So VTP will let you know create VLAN on one switch, and all the other switches will be synchronized themselves. Whichever that I am creating, it will be sync those VLAN database. And what if company decide to add new department to your office? If new department, if new switches came, new department, that is, so it will be sync automatically 10, 20, 30. So again, the VLAN configuration only it will be sync, not for the host configuration, not for the access, whichever the we are configuring the host, it will be not sync. So VLAN 10, I'll apply to access port, switch port mode access to VLAN 10 for this and this port, it will be we have to configure it. So only VLAN information will be transparent. VLAN information only, it will be transferred, not for the port information. And without VTP, you have to go each switch to enable this new VLAN. If new office or new department is came, so each switch we have to go and we have to apply those many VLANs. It is difficult task if manual human error also will come. So that is the reason we have a VTP. It will be propagate VLAN information. Whichever we created, it will propagate those many VLAN informations. And switches must belongs to the same domain. If domain is mismatched, then VTP will not send that VLAN information. It won't sync also. They will not sync VLAN information. And switch can only belongs to a single domain, and whichever the VLANs are there, switch are all the switch are same domain. These all are the same domain. If whichever the domain name you created, for example, A, B, C, random domain name if you created, those domain name you should have to create here also, A, B, C something. You have to create single domain at your LAN location. If domain mismatch, then VLAN information and VTP not transfer those many VLAN information. That is the reason those are the all are the single domain. And VLAN trunking protocol simplifies this management. Updates to the VLAN database are propagated to all switches using VTP advertisement. So it will be used VTP advertisement. With the help of VTP advertisement, whichever the management piece switch is there, that will be propagate entire VLAN information. And VTP managed to manage the addition, deleting the deletion, and renaming of VLAN across the names from centralized point of control, maintain and consistency through themselves. The network, that network means, see, whichever we are creating the VLAN, we are renaming the VLAN. We can rename the VLAN also. Whichever we created here, VLAN 10, that give the name as a HR. And if you want to change the name, yes, you can change the name also. And if you want to delete, yes, you can delete the VLAN also. If you don't want VLAN 20, then delete the VLAN 20 from server switch. It will be applied to entire switches. So up to here, any doubts? If you are you can create the VLAN, you can delete the VLAN, you can rename the VLAN, whichever task you can do, it will be apply entire your LAN location, LAN switches. So basically, the only one thing, with the help of VTP, we are propagating the VLAN information only. Only VLAN information we are propagating to different switches. We are propagating VLAN information. That is what VTP. It will be share the VLAN information, only VLAN information. Apart from that, not for anything. Any doubts? So VTP having three modes: server, client, and transparent. So in server mode, the server mode responsible for creating, deleting, modifying entire in the VLAN database. Default mode for Cisco switches. Yeah, it's a default mode in server switch. You can take it as server switch. So server switch connected to clients, and these are the client switches. So it's a client. These all are the client switches. And what we'll do in client switches, we cannot modify the VLAN database and rely on advertisement from other switches. Updates VLAN information. A client will also forward VTP advertisement out every trunk port. So wait for that. In this VLAN, it's server mode only. We can create the VLAN, we can delete the VLAN, we can modify the VLAN. But in client mode, we cannot create the VLAN. No, not yet. Not creating VLAN and not deleting the VLAN. It won't apply. And not modify also. Even we cannot modify. But this client add again one more client. it will be transfer. It will be propagate that information. It will be send that information, transfer. It will be advertise that VLAN information. It will be advertise that VLAN information, whichever it have 10, 20, 30. Where we created? Here. In server mode, we created 10, 20, 30. It will be transferred to him and it will be transferred to him. But in this mode, we cannot delete it. I'll show you in lab. If again client is connected to client and client is connected to client. This is a client and server mode. Any doubts in client and server?
No.
No doubts. Okay. Again, this one is a server switch, and server switch is connected to transparent, and transparent switch is connected to again client switches. So it's a transparent and it's a client. These all are the client. So in server switch, we can create VLAN, we can modify VLAN, we can delete more VLAN. Here also, we can create VLAN and we can modify the VLAN and we can delete the VLAN. So, but what is the difference is here in transparent and server mode? Transparent mode, it will be deploy himself only. It will be whichever you are creating the VLANs. If you created 40 here and 50 and 60, you created here 10, 20 and 30 VLAN you have created here. You will receive here not this VLAN, only you will receive 10, 20 and 30 only you will receive. Here also 10, 20, 30. Here also 10, 20, 30. What about this 40, 50, 60? But it is sending, right? It will be not transparent. It will be not transfer those VLAN. It will be himself only. Whichever the we are creating, himself will be. It will be not advertised to neighbor. It will be who and all connected neighbors. It will be not sync. It won't sync. It will be deploy himself only. So transparent means himself only. Whichever the VLANs we are creating, it will be confidentiality like. But whenever we are creating server mode, that will be transfer at client location, client server, sorry, client switch, whichever the client mode. So a VTP transparent switch maintain its own local VLAN database. See, its own local database does not directly participate in VTP domain. It will be does not participate in VTP domain, but it should have to same domain name we have to use. We have to use same domain name only, then only it will be transferred. If you are using domain name here A, B, C, so you should have to use A, B, C here. You should have to use A, B, C domain name. Anything you can use. Your name also, it word only, the domain name, but it should be match. So it will be transfer the information, but it won't. And whichever you created the VLAN 10, 20, 30, it won't deploy himself. It will be transfer only. It will be not stored in database, VLAN database. It will be not stored. It will be simply transfer. A transparent switch will never accept VLAN database information from another switches, even server also. So that is what it will never accept. It will never accept to install it, never accept to save those VLAN information. Just it will be transferred to another switches. It will be not stored. So 10, 20, 30, it will be passed through here, but it will not store. Once we do the lab, you can easily understand. This is a VTP configuration part. So Any doubts in theoretical? We'll do the lab, then you can easily understand those. Guys, do you have any questions in VTP?
But you said it will, I mean, initially you told it will not transfer the VLANs to other switches, right?
So that is transparent mode.
Y-
So that is a
Yeah.
transparent mode. So, okay, wait. This is our server and this is our transparent and this one is a client. We'll change the mode, then you can easily understand. Once you do the practical lab, then easy to understand those.
Okay.
See, that is what transparent mode. In transparent mode, we can create, we can we can create the VLANs, we can deleting the VLANs, we can modify entire, but it will not accept, never accept from whichever the database is coming from another switches. So wait for a while. It's a transparent switch and this is a server switch and it's a client. It's a client switch. We'll take one or two client switches. So for troubleshooting command for VTP, use VTP, then give the question mark and you can check here the how many counters and how many which password we created. If password is a password also mismatch, then it won't participate in VTP database. So we have to check the status, which status that I have. VTP status will check. So I mentioned here, it's a by default mode is server mode. So it is verified and every switch having by default mode is server mode. And so VTP status. So this switch also server mode and enable show VTP status. So entire line switches are all are in server mode. So it's fine. Server switch will change this switch as a client transparent switch. So how will change? Config terminal VTP and mode. Here use mode. Which mode? You need a transparent. So transparent. Setting device to VTP transparent mode is done. Got it. And now check the mode. Which mode we are? Show VTP status. Now transparent mode. We'll configure this mode as a client. Config terminal interface. Sorry. VTP mode client. We changed name as a client. So we'll configure here. First, we'll configure some VLANs. VLAN 10. Name as a ABC. Or we'll take HR department. Exit. Only I have created one VLAN. Later we'll create and save that configuration. And we'll check show IP interface, show VLAN brief. So we have created one VLAN here. Now check that VLAN information we got here or not. So VLAN brief. No, will not get, because as I mentioned, the domain name should have to match. So show VLAN. Sorry. So VTP status. And this is an interview question actually. How you will verify which mode is available in switch? How which mode which VTP mode is in switch? So how will check? So this kind of question interviewers ask. So to give the answer is show VTP status. With the help of show VTP status, we will troubleshoot it. Which mode is in that switch? So this switch is now client mode. So here you can check two versions, VTP having two versions. So its advanced version is 2 and VTP version running by default version is 1. Will change version 2 and VTP domain name we haven't mentioned yet, and it's a security pruning, it's security thing, and VTP trap generates nothing. So we'll configure those things. We'll check it. We'll create first domain name VTP. So DOM version field first will change the version 2 done, and version after then VTP domain name whichever word you can give. So we'll give Cisco. So you should have to domain name should have to match entire LAN location. Null. So null is there earlier, no domain name. Now we change null to Cisco. And VTP, if you are giving the password, yes, you can configure it password, and password should also match. So we'll give Cisco only password also. The password is changed. So save the configuration. So VTP status, Cisco name, and if you want to check the password, show VTP password. Yes, we can check it here. Password is Cisco. Now configured from transparent switch also, config terminal and VTP mode which set, and now domain name is Cisco, and VTP password is Cisco. So VTP version is 2, right? VTP domain name Cisco, and VTP password Cisco, VTP version 2. Password mode version we set, entire thing we set. Now show click for live. VTP version 2, VTP domain name Cisco, VTP password Cisco. Now create here VLAN. Should before that check VTP status. Status is client and domain name is Cisco, and by default version is running. You have changed VTP version 2. See what I did. Have you got it? Why we got this error? Okay, no issue. First, I configured here client mode. So how configured here? I'm modifying the something, so it is not taking. So only domain name has changed. So if I am changing the version, it is not taking. So for that, what we have to do? We have to mention as a it's the switch is it is a mode is server. Then you can modify anything. If you are creating VLAN also, VLAN 10. So VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when device is in client mode. You cannot modify anything. So before that only I have mentioned you are the client mode. So that is the reason it is not accepting. So VTP mode server. Now create the VLAN something. VLAN 100 will create. Name 100 will give and exit. And now VTP will set the password Cisco, and password it has taken. So limited configuration we can change. So in that domain name, and apart from that password we can change it in client mode. And VTP version will change now to not accepted. Now we'll change the VTP mode. Before that, we'll check VTP status. Yes, version now changed, and Cisco so config T We'll change the mode. VTP mode server and create one VLAN 1000 name 1000 and exit and give some VTP password we created and version we have to change. So show VLAN brief. So we created only 1000 VLAN here. Apart from that, no VLANs are available. And here, so VTP status is Cisco and check the VLAN show VLAN brief and check here also VLANs, how many VLANs we have. Show VLAN brief. So no VLANs are available here. Now we'll create VLAN 10, 20, 30 in this switch. So config key VLAN 10. Earlier we created, even though it is not propagated. So if you want to check, you can check here. So VLAN brief. It has not propagated. The reason behind after the create one first we created, then we'll check. We have checked. Then we created some. We enable the name, domain name, password, VTP configuration. After this we did. After this we configured. That is the reason it is not propagated. Now again we'll excluded this VLAN. Then we'll create some other VLANs. Understood? First we created the VLAN, then we uh, we did after then VTP configuration. After the VLAN, first we created here VLAN and give the we have given the name. Then we check. After then we started the VTP configuration. That is the reason this VLAN is not propagated here. So if you want to check, show VLAN already checked. No VLAN 10 is there. Now we'll exclude that VLAN. The domain name is mismatched. That is the reason. Now we'll configure the VLAN 20 and VLAN 30 and VLAN 40 we created and check here. We haven't get any VLAN information. It transparent switch. Now check here. So VTP status. Status is still server mode only. So VTP status. So VTP status. So we have to check the revision numbers also. So VTP status. what? So VTP password उसको show summary subset request summary subset request. So here it is not changing. We learn 10, 40, 50, 53. So we learn brief and so we learn brief cannot create it because client mode, but the information also we are not getting. So we learn brief. The server mode it is. So here no issue. It change VTP mode and server to client will change it. Device settings changed. VTP password we already said. Yes, sir. Domain name. Maximum VLAN support. Number of existing VLAN 6 only. Why it is showing 6? And revision number is 3. Show VTP VLAN. Take here. Show VTP status. Client mode. Show VTP password. Something I'm missing, I think so. So VLAN brief.